When you say, oh, this is not my bag, all of our alerts go way high. Imagine for a second you're a Customs and Border Protection officer. You are playing a high-stakes volume game, right? You're searching hundreds of passengers every single day. You ask a traveler a super simple question about their luggage, and they utter that exact phrase. Suddenly, the routine just stops. This is pretty much the ultimate red flag for law enforcement. It's that precise moment an everyday baggage check transforms into a potential criminal investigation.
Welcome to The Explainer. I'm so incredibly glad you're joining us today because we're diving into something absolutely fascinating, a structured inside look at the multi-front war on international smuggling. Okay, let's just dive right into this. We're going to see how federal agencies from CBP to Homeland Security investigations literally dismantle massive transnational criminal networks. And we'll be doing this by looking at real tactical operations, examining the clever strategies smugglers use, and breaking down exactly how law enforcement counters them at every turn.
So here is our map of the battlefield today. We've got 4 distinct front lines. First up, the air front, with airport baggage battles. Then the sea front, for high seas operations. After that, we'll hit the street front to look at local trap houses, and finally, the mail front, which is the international threat hiding right in plain sight. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the air front, focusing on the airport baggage battles. We're starting out at a massive international airport. Think JFK. You've got family reunions, excited tourists, but just beneath that surface, it's a deeply deceptive environment. And the threat here isn't always hidden bricks of narcotics like you see in the movies. Often, it's what officers call the traveling pharmacy threat. We regularly see naive passengers or passengers who are very convincingly feigning ignorance, carrying 50 or more unidentified pills. In one instance, officers actually pulled out neocodeon, which is a Schedule II codeine derivative produced in places like Lebanon and Vietnam. They find unregulated liquids and foreign pain relievers like Dolostop, completely unapproved by the FDA, being passed off as, just a favor for a friend's aunt. But here's the crucial point. Ignorance is not an excuse. Bringing in mass quantities of unregulated, untested chemicals is a massive, lethal public health risk, which is exactly why these products are immediately seized and turned over to the FDA. Now, obviously, the air front isn't just about naive passengers. We're also dealing with highly sophisticated cartels. Check out this unbelievable timeline from a sting operation at JFK. Law enforcement gets intel on a 2-year internal conspiracy involving actual airline employees smuggling drugs out of Curaçao. The plan? Smugglers put a bag on a plane, and corrupt employees pull it off before it ever hits customs. But CBP was waiting. They intercepted the target bag right on the tarmac and x-rayed it, instantly spotting dense bricks. Then they just watched the passenger. The 21-year-old mule completely bypassed the baggage carousel, proving without a doubt she knew employees were supposed to grab it. Agents moved in, made the arrest, and field tested those bricks, positive for cocaine. And brilliantly, they didn't stop there. Actually, agents immediately took this evidence and flew to Curaçao to extradite the suppliers for a massive top-down takedown. And guess how much they pulled out of that single black suitcase at JFK? 7.5 kilos of cocaine. I really want you to lock that number in your head for a second. 7.5 kilos is a significant hit to a transnational criminal organization. It's more than enough to trigger an international extradition. And it perfectly establishes our baseline for the scale of airport smuggling operations. Because look at this contrast. 456 kilos. That's what was seized from just one yacht entering South Florida. Literally staggering, right? This massive escalation perfectly sets up our second operational theater.
Which brings us to Section 2, the seafront, high-seas smuggling operations.
South Florida is absolutely packed with recreational boats, making it incredibly tough to police. And cartels? They exploit this to move absolute mountains of narcotics. Let's break down the precise logistical routes smugglers use to hide right in plain sight. Step 1. It all starts with an at-sea transfer. Cocaine is loaded onto a yacht coming out of the Dominican Republic. Step 2. The vessel snakes its way through the Bahamas. They stop for fuel, they act like tourists, and they seamlessly blend in with the vacationers. Step 3. Port entry. The yacht casually cruises into Fort Lauderdale, heavily mixed with legitimate recreational traffic. Honestly, it's a logistical masterpiece of camouflage. But in this case, Homeland Security investigations and CBP were ready, finding 5 huge duffel bags full of cocaine stacked right behind a bunk bed in the salon area. Now, when you're dealing with crews moving hundreds of kilos, the stakes are literally life and death.
Following that massive 456-kilo bust, officers went to execute a high-risk, early-morning arrest warrant at the captain's house. The tension here was incredibly high. The captain's son answered the door and flat-out lied, claiming his dad wasn't home. But agents pushed in slowly, safely clearing the house, and ultimately found the captain, who had literally been sleeping on the yacht next to $40,000 in cash, crouched and hiding in the shadows of a back bedroom. It was an incredibly dangerous unknown, neutralized flawlessly.
All right, let's move on to Section 3, the street front, dismantling local trap houses. So, we've covered airports and international waters, but where do all those oceanic shipments actually end up? Well, they go straight into our local communities. To understand this street-level battle, we really need to define what we're looking at. A trap house is a fortified property. In the specific case we're looking at, it was a trailer in the Miami area where nobody actually lives. It's utilized strictly by heavily armed groups with lengthy, violent criminal histories to sell narcotics. This isn't just a casual drug deal. It's a militarized distribution hub plopped right down in a residential neighborhood.
Because you're dealing with heavy firearms and violent gangs here, Homeland Security Investigations actually had to call in a special response team. And they executed a textbook tactical raid. First, they safely breached the outer fortified fence. The second the raid kicked off, the primary suspect tried to make a run for it but was caught scaling a fence right down the street. Inside, search teams recovered over 1 kilo of cocaine, along with crack, marijuana, baggies, the whole shebang. They even seized over $600 in cash that the dealers were actively counting when the door got kicked in. So the big takeaway here is that this multi-agency response completely shut down a major neighborhood threat without a single injury.
And the immediate street value of the drugs sitting in just that one little trailer? $30,000. It's this exact financial incentive that drives all that local violence. And really, it highlights exactly why pulling a multi-hundred-kilo shipment off a yacht is so absolutely vital. It stops millions of dollars from ever trickling down to fund these violent trap houses in the first place. Finally, we arrive at Section 4, the mail front, the international mail threat. Now we're shifting to our final, and honestly, maybe the most insidious front line of them all. It's not a person at an airport, it's not a luxury yacht, it's the international postal system. This is where dark web orders attempt to completely bypass traditional borders. The terrifying contrast here is between the cover story and reality. Officers routinely scan incoming international mail, right? Well, they recently pulled a package labeled simply as protein supplements, but inside, 3,400 grams of unregulated alprazolam, which you probably know as Xanax. It's a massive dark web deception. People are bypassing doctors altogether, hopping online and ordering huge quantities of highly addictive, unregulated pharmaceuticals from completely unknown overseas labs. Just to put that in perspective, 3,400 grams translates to roughly 15,000 pills crammed into a single envelope. Officers even noted that a normal person couldn't possibly use this amount in a year. This isn't just a smuggling issue anymore, it's a massive public health crisis arriving daily in our mailrooms. We're talking about fake, unprescribed pills where the end user has absolutely no idea what actual chemicals they're ingesting. Okay, let's tie all these threads together. Because what we're really seeing across every single domain is how innocent cover stories mask these massive criminal realities. An end's bag on the airfront is actually 7.5 kilos of cocaine. A luxury yacht enjoying the seafront is carrying 456 kilos of cocaine. And protein supplements arriving in the mail are actually 15,000 fake Xanax pills. The deception is universal, totally regardless of the method of transport. There's a quote that I think absolutely nails the ethos of these operations. When we're talking about Homeland, we're not just talking about protecting it from within, we're talking about protecting it all around the world. Catching that 21-year-old mule at JFK or arresting the guy at the trap house in Miami, that's just step one. The ultimate goal of law enforcement is to take that evidence, fly to places like Curacao, and entirely dismantle these transnational criminal organizations from the top down. So we've traveled from the busy luggage carousels of JFK, through the sparkling waters of the Bahamas, into the fortified trap houses in Miami, and straight to the mundane sorting bins of the Postal Service. The front lines of this invisible war are absolutely everywhere. Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question to consider. With so much incredibly sophisticated deception out there, what else is crossing our borders unseen right this very minute? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this helped you structure your understanding of this incredibly complex